Hello everyone, hi, welcome to 2024. Today we are going to be talking about the best books that I read in 2023, and then I will make a separate video talking about the top 10 worst books that I read in 2023. So let's get started. Hello, if you are new here, my name is Wendy Ivy Martinez, and I make videos about books and things. Welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to talk about the top 10 books that I have read in 2023, and yes, these are going to be ranked from number 1 being my top favorite to number 10 being my 10 favorite, if that makes sense. I read a lot this year. I actually read more than any other year I have ever read. I read a total of 78 books. Bravo, bravo. Last year I read like 65. The year before that I only read like 36. So we are improving. We are improving. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And today I'm going to talk about my top 10. Because I read so many books and I tried out so many genres, I kind of finally got the gist of what I like and what I don't like. So I'm so excited to now go into the new year with my newly acquired tastes now that I know what I like to read. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go all the way from number 10 all the way to number 1 being my very top favorite. So let's go ahead and just get this thing started with number 10. My 10th favorite book of 2023 was Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Bazterrica. But this book was a favorite, not for reasons that typically will become someone's favorite, like I really enjoyed it. It was an amazing read. No, this book was disturbing in the most disturbing, disgusting way. And yes, it left a mark on me. Till this day, I still think about this book, but not because it was amazing, but because it was so horrific and it left this impact on me. In this book, we basically follow this society where all animals, yes, all animals, that includes your pets, are all slaughtered because they are infected with a virus that is fatal to humans. So even if a pet licks you, you can obtain this virus and pass away. So the government makes it legal to consume human meat because there is a protein demand that needs to be met. And these humans are raised without vocal cords in meat factories, and they grow up and are basically unalived so they can be made into meat. Now, obviously, they don't use the term humans when they refer to this new food source. They talk about it and they call them heads or special meat. And our main character, we follow a man that works in this meat factory. And he is given this tender, grade A piece of meat, if you will, this woman that is still alive, to do with her what he wishes, of course, as long as it involves consuming her. It was so horrendous. It had so many graphic scenes, and it was giving me nightmares every single night, and like I said, it left a tremendous impact on me, almost like a trauma, because it really messed me up. I actually stopped reading horror for a while because of how dark this book was, and my mental space was already in a dark headspace. So when I read this, it literally sank me into this like depression, and it had me just thinking all kinds of things. It was crazy. It was crazy, and because of that, I had to put it on here because it had such a tremendous impact on me. So that's coming in at number 10. Coming in at number 9, we have another horror, Camp Damascus by Tingle. Camp Damascus basically follows a gay conversion camp, and it has a lot of social commentary basically about gay conversion camps and religion versus the LGBTQ plus community, and it was amazing. Okay, this book was amazing. I like when books talk about the dark side of religion, and it touches on these topics that really need to be discussed, especially because they are so prominent in our society today. Until this day, there is still places that have gay conversion camps. So I really enjoyed this book, and again, the impact that it had on me, and it was beautifully written, and just again, the social commentary was just chef's kiss amazing. I absolutely really loved this book, even if it was so short. Like Tender is the Flesh, again, it had a tremendous impact on me. Coming in at number 8, we have Verity by Colleen Hoover. I know Colleen Hoover is a author that gets a lot of hate, okay? And this book also, for some reason, gets a lot of hate, but I know why I can see why it gets a lot of hate. Colleen Hoover has written quite a few hits for me, but there's another book that I read by her that actually ended up on my worst books of the year, but Verity got a top spot, okay? Because I have never read a thriller by Colleen Hoover, and this book had me at the edge of my seat. I finished it in like 1 or 2 days. I literally just sat there and read a whole bunch of pages because I could not get enough of it. In this story, we basically follow our main character, who's basically going to be a ghostwriter for this author named Verity Crawford, and she gets this amazing once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because Verity Crawford had this accident that left her in a coma, and not left her in a coma, left her paralyzed, and she can no longer write. So the husband basically gets this author to write the book, and she's basically the ghostwriter for Verity because the public does not know how huge Verity's accident was. So as the ghostwriter begins looking through Verity's scripts about this new book that she's about to release, she finds Verity's private diary, and where she tells the world her horrible acts, and it's just so interesting and entertaining. I can see why some people didn't like the ending, especially. Without giving away the ending, I obviously don't want to spoil anything. This ending is left very open-ended. It's basically left for you to come up with your own conclusion, and I liked that. A lot of people don't like when endings are so open and they want everything to be closed out at the very end, but with this book specifically, it really worked for me because it had me thinking, what if this, what if that? Like, because the ending was so loose and you never really know what exactly happened, because it was left so open, I really enjoyed that because it had me thinking about the book long after I finally read the last page, and it had me Googling things and searching things up. It was, again, just another really good book that had me thinking about it afterwards as well. Now, coming in at number 7, we have The Wishing Game by Meg Shaffer. This book fell into my top 10 for a completely different reason from the other books that I previously talked about. In this book, we basically follow our main character, who is a teacher, and she has this little child that she really loves and wants to adopt because he is in the system, I believe, and she just doesn't have the money to afford it. Now, this teacher, she has a favorite author that she grew up really enjoying and reading all of his novels, and she teaches the child that she looks after to really enjoy this author as well. And she gets this opportunity of a lifetime to basically visit the author's home and compete in this big competition, and at the end they are given a prize. And because she is so desperate for money, basically, because she really wants the money to adopt this little boy, she decides to go and take this opportunity. And this book was just so beautiful. Like, I can see it becoming a timeless classic tale. It wasn't exactly fantasy, but it did have fantasy elements tied within it. It was just so whimsical and beautiful, and the writing was so lyrical and just gorgeous. Like, the writing was just beautiful, and it had me crying to the very end just because it was written so beautifully. Like, I just don't know what else to say, but the writing was gorgeous. It was just so beautifully written. And because of that, even though I read it like the beginning of the year, towards the beginning of the year, I really, really loved it. So I'm giving The Wishing Game a top spot here in my top 10 books of 2023. At number 6, I was not expecting a dark romance to be a part of my top 10. If you guys hear that, that is the train in the background. I was not expecting a dark romance to be in the top 10 for the best books of the year at all, okay? Because I didn't think dark romance was my thing. I read a few dark romances and I'm like, I just don't think this is for me. And then I realized I like dark romance when it involves female serial killers. That seems to be the thing that does it for me. If it has dark romance, okay, but dark romance with female serial killers, yeah, that we enjoy. So that is why Satan's Affair by H.D. Carlton landed at number 6 in my top 10 books of the year. I read Haunting Adeline afterwards. Hated it, okay? I hated Haunting Adeline. I did not like it. That non-con, cannot do non-con. No, I couldn't do it. But Satan's Affair was great, okay? This is like my first, no, this is my second, actually. My second reverse harem, multiple men, one woman story. And in this character, we follow Sibby, and Sibby basically goes around with a traveling haunted house, and she lives within the walls. So people don't really know that she's there. And she grew up in a really messed up cult-like home. And so when she grew up, she was really mentally messed up. So she swears that she can smell demons, aka like people that have a lot of evil in them. So she seeks them out in this haunted house, and she'll whistle this tune, and her henchmen, these like men that work for her, will retrieve these people, these demons, and then Sibby will kill them, and that gets her off, and it gets dark romance-y from there, I should say. And this book was so good, okay? The plot twist, the story, even though it was so short, I have a lot of short books that like really made a huge impact on me this year. I noticed that. Even though it was so short, it was so good. The plot twist, the story, the scenes with Sibby and these oh my gosh, you guys. H.D. Carlton is going to write a whole series just based off of Sibby, and I cannot wait to read it because it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Coming in at number 5, we have Fantasticland by Mike Bockoven. This is another horror book that, again, I really enjoyed. So in this story, we basically follow this huge amusement park that is, think of it like another Disneyland, okay? And it's called Fantasticland. And this theme park is huge. Everybody goes to it. There's this road that literally has like little gold specks called the Golden Road. And it's all the hullabaloo. And then a hurricane hits it. And because there's so much value in the theme park, the managers and the people that are behind the scenes to Fantasticland are basically like, hey, let's keep some workers here to protect the park while this hurricane is happening. And so they basically ask all the workers, hey, who wants to stay? OT will pick you up in about 72 hours. All you have to do is chillax, stay in the storm shelter. If you need to get food, there's a whole bunch of buffets. It's free food and you get paid OT and you just need to chillax and have fun for a few days. And of course, hundreds of people, there's like over 300 workers that are like, heck yeah, easy money, have some fun, let's do this thing. And they decide to stay. And so when they stay, they're there in the storm shelter and then the lights go out. And then a day passes and then another day passes. And then pretty soon they realize, yeah, they're not gonna come. Nobody's coming. And they're left to fend for themselves. Pretty soon, a couple months pass, and Fantasticland is being searched and rescued, and they find a whole bunch of bodies tied across Fantasticland. The sign is torn down. What happened? It looks like a war zone, but everybody, 90% of the people that worked there were practically teenagers. And that's what this story is about. We follow these different characters in an interview style format where we get the perspective of different people that worked in the park and were there during the hurricane. And we fill in the gaps basically to what happened in Fantasticland. How did these kids commit these horrible acts? What led them to this descent into madness so rapidly? It's very inspired by Lord of the Flies, and because I loved this book, I decided to buy Lord of the Flies because I want to reread it, because I haven't read it since I was like a teenager, and digest that again because I really loved this book a lot. It was amazing. Okay, it was amazing. I was reading this right before we got the hurricane warning here in Southern California, and that terrified me. I was one of those people that was like so paranoid from the hurricane. I was like, we gotta go get lights, we gotta go get this, we gotta get extra food, because I was so paranoid because of this book. And living in Southern California, I'm not used to a hurricane, okay? Next, coming in at number 4, we have Wilde's Encyclopedia of Faeries by Heather Fawcett. I tried a new genre last year, okay? I tried something called cozy fantasy. And what I found was, I effing love cozy fantasy. Sometimes you just need an escape. A cozy little escape from society where there's not too much hullabaloo going on, and you just need something to relax your noggin, your brain, and cozy fantasy just does just that, okay? It's like a warm hug on a cold winter morning. It's like a cup of cocoa when you're cold. It's cozy. It's cozy. It's cozy fantasy. And I loved it, okay? In this story, we follow a very curmudgeon professor named Emily Wilde, and she lives in a society where fairies are real. She is creating a whole encyclopedia of fairies, and she dedicated her life to learning about fairies. She's very interested in fairies. And the fairies in this world are very different from the fairies in the Fae that we see nowadays, where they really want to invest with humans and they want to mix and mingle and they want to have human babies, and you know, and they're these like sexy creatures. Most fairies are not sexy creatures, okay? Most of these fairies are very weird looking. They're very weird looking, and they don't want nothing to do with humans, and if they do want something to do with humans, it's to trick them or mess up their life, not mingle with them. And I really liked that. You could see, I just realized you could see my toilet paper that I've been using as tissue. Sorry, I have COVID, so quarantining. Anyways, as I was saying, I really liked this different take on fairies. I think we're just so used to seeing fairies in this sort of way, and you do get a bit of that, fairies that do want to mingle with humans and get it on or whatever, but most of the fairies don't have that desire, and I liked that, okay? And that's why It takes the spot. It takes the spot of number 4. And now coming in at number 3, speaking of fairies that want to get it on with humans, we have A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. On the total opposite side of the spectrum, we have fairies that do want to get it on with humans. And that's exactly what we get with A Court of Thorns and Roses. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling with a very like independent main character. Picture a Belle, but like badass. And that's what we get with Feyre in A Court of Thorns and Roses, as she is basically forced to live in this castle with this man, this fairy, this high fae that wears a mask, and his name is Tamlin. And it is their love story, but it's also it's a survival story. It is a story with a very evil villainess, and I like that we have a female villain. Sarah J. Maas does that, and she does it well, and it was enjoyable. Okay, it was my second time reading it, because I read it last year, and then I read it again this year, and I'm gonna read it again in 2024, because I'm gonna do a whole vlog where I finally finish the series, because I only read book 1 5 bajillion times. And it was good, okay? It was good. I don't need to say more. I don't want to touch on this book too much because I'm going to do a whole vlog on it. And not only that, but I feel like everybody and their mom has read this. So there's that one. Now coming in at number 2, we actually have a manga. And that is Orange. Orange is a very slice of life with a time loop twist. I've said this before and I will say it again. I love books that have to do with, not resurrection, with time loops, parallel universes. When you're born again, what is that called? Reincarnation. Duh. Not resurrection. Reincarnation. Reincarnation. All of those tropes, all of those topics are like, yes, give me more of that. I need more time loops, why do I keep saying resurrection? Reincarnation and parallel universes. And you get not reincarnation, but time loops and parallel universes in Orange. In this story, we basically follow our main character, whose name is Naho, and Naho basically gets a letter addressed to her from her future self 10 years in the future. And in this letter, she tells past Naho, or present Naho, I guess. Future Naho tells present Naho, hey, I'm writing you this letter from the future. And at first, like, Naho's like, okay, it's a joke. Sure. Okay, sure you are. But then this person says something really crazy. She says, today you are going to get a brand new student from Tokyo, and his name is going to be blah, blah, blah. And as she reads this, the teacher comes in and announces a new student from Tokyo with the same exact name that this person in the letter wrote. And she was like, okay, that's weird. And in the letter she says, you have to protect this boy at all costs, because by the end of the year, he will no longer be with us, and you're the only one that can stop it. And the story takes off from there, and it had me at the edge of my seat the whole time. I was turning the page, and as soon as I finished the first volume, I picked up the second one, I picked up the third one, I have the fourth one now. It was just so good. It was so good. It had me at the edge of my seat. It was amazing. It was great. Okay, I was crying. I was laughing. It made me feel all the emotions I needed to feel. It invoked so much in me. I got so caught up in this story and these characters. The day just flew by and I was in my own little world. This literally took me out of Earth and into this story. Another book that did that, probably the best, was my number 1 spot. And if you guys are familiar with my channel, then you guys have watched my videos. You guys might already know what book I'm about to say. But if you don't, I am sorry and I apologize for being a basic B. But I can't help it. I loved this book. It is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Now, in this story, we follow our main character, Violet, and Violet has a disability that sort of challenges her in comparison to everyone else. And she always grew up raised to be a scribe because her father was a scribe, and obviously her bones are more fragile. So she was never raised to be a dragon rider like the rest of her family until her father passes away, and her mom's like, yeah, you're gonna be a dragon rider. I don't care what you have to say. And so Violet has 6 months to train for this dragon riding school, and she thinks that she's not going to make it. And basically this dragon riding school is very intense. By the end of the year, only about like 25% of the students that got in are going to pass the first year and actually get a dragon and make it to the second year of this war college. And of course, there is a arch rival that is in this war college that is trying everything in his power to make Violet's life really difficult, and his name is Xaden, and Xaden is Shadow Daddy. End of story. This book was amazing. The escapism that I got with this book was just so amazing. I haven't had a book that took me out so hard from this life and into this fantasy world and did it so well since I was pretty much a teenager. I think the last book that I read that did this, that had this impact on me, was like Divergent years and years ago. So reading this was such an amazing, fun time, and it made me realize why I love reading again and how it truly is just a way to escape, and that I really feel like I was a part of this world, you know? I really felt like I was a dragon rider myself, and I felt like I was living this whole other life, and I like how books can do that and make you feel like you have lived all these lives. And that's why it's at my #1 spot, because it really, it was amazing. It was amazing. It was the greatest escape from life that I could have possibly asked for. And it came at a perfect time because I was moving during that time, so I needed that escape, okay? Anyways, you guys, that is it. That is my top 10 books for 2023. Let me know what your guys' favorite books were for 2023 down in the comments below. Stay tuned for my next video where I am going to be a mess, where I'm going to really speak my truth on the books that I didn't like in 2023, my worst books of the year. Anyways, you guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!